thought I knew John Travolta, the movies, the dance, the grin that shook the room. But at 71, his story hits like a hush. It is bright and broken at the same time, and that mix is why we are here today. I want to honor the icon, but I also want to tell you the parts that hurt, because the pain explains the art. We start fast and stay honest. He gave us Tony Manero, Danny Zuko, and Vincent Vega, and that is the surface. Underneath are losses that would fold most people. Love gone too soon, family gone too soon, headlines that stung louder than cheers. If you love legends reframed with care, hit subscribe and stay with me. I grew up replaying Grease on a tiny TV with a chipped frame. My dad laughed at the hair while I watched the feet. It felt easy then, but it was not easy for him. His road starts in a small Jersey house, gets louder in New York halls, and ends up under lights no one forgets. Where were you the first time you saw Grease or Saturday Night Fever? I ask because the memory says as much about us as it does about him. I keep thinking he was shining while he was breaking, and that is hard to hold. And yet, that tension makes every scene feel alive. You can almost hear the scuff of rehearsal floors under those early dreams. He kept moving like momentum could keep the ghosts behind him. The way he learned to be seen will change how you see him. Let me show you how that boy became a flame.
He was the youngest of 6 in Inglewood, New Jersey. His dad came home with oil on his hands and worry on his face. His mom taught drama with chalk on her sleeves and hope in her voice. Money was thin, space was thinner, and noise was the rule. So he danced in the living room to win a little peace. He learned early that attention was a kind of food. At 16, he left school with a stubborn spark and a small stash. He saved by skipping meals and walking instead of writing. Look, New York did not clap for him at first. 8 long months were doors shut and lines cut short. Couches and hallways became beds, and pride kept him from calling home. He almost broke, but the dream would not let go. In a laundromat, he heard whispers about a Grease audition. He said he knew it and walked in with fire in his eyes. He got the role and hit the road with the tour. Buses, cheap rooms, and shows in city after city taught him grind. Then came small parts on sets where his name barely mattered. Then the sitcom made Vinnie Barbarino a phenomenon, and the mailroom overflowed. That fame felt sweet and like a trap all at once. Some people only saw the smirk, not the soul underneath. Could you walk away from school at 16 and gamble everything on a dream? He refused to be ordinary and watched real Brooklyn kids to build a new truth. The steps he studied there would soon set dance floors on fire. He was ready to carry a film and pay for it with sweat. He was also about to learn how heavy a crown really feels. Saturday Night Fever asked for more than style. It asked for pain, for grind, for focus that hurts. He rehearsed for 12 hours, legs shaking, suit soaked, body buzzing. He fell to the floor between takes and still rose on cue. When the camera rolled, he gave truth with rhythm and heat. An Oscar nod at 23 felt like air after a long swim. Then Grease roared and painted his face on bedroom walls worldwide. Theaters overflowed, jukeboxes echoed, and the world sang along. He smiled for the flash, but backstage, he was tired. The same role that lifted him also boxed him in. Some saw only Barbarino and missed the depth in the eyes. When he reached for more, the room got colder. Staying Alive stumbled, and the jokes stung deep. Another film got mocked, and the headlines felt cruel. He stared at hotel walls and heard the laughter echo. But he did not quit. Not then, not ever. Look Who's Talking surprised the box office and kept his name bright. Then a bold director saw the actor others forgot. Pulp Fiction cracked the room open, and the ovation would not stop. He stood there reborn, tears close, heart loud, purpose clear. Then came Get Shorty and a wild switch in Face Off and a sharp turn in Primary Colors. Was that comeback luck or grit? Even at the top, he felt the weight of long days and the cost of being the face on a poster. And still, the darkest lessons were waiting off stage. Because life, not reviews, would write the next act. And it would write in ink that does not fade.
On one set, he met Diana Hyland, and love felt simple again. They laughed past midnight and planned a home and talked about kids. Then breast cancer took her while he held her, and the world blurred. He flew home with a white suit meant for a trip now worn in grief. Back in the dark, he read lines out loud as if she could hear. He poured that ache into Saturday Night Fever and turned pain into power. People saw swagger, but the steps were also a kind of cry. Just when the lights were brightest, another shadow fell. His mother, who first taught him the stage, was sick in secret. She hid it so he could smile on carpets and wave at crowds. He rushed home between shows to read to her bedside and sing. Then she was gone too, and the house got very quiet. His father remarried soon after, and a private bruise stayed tender. He kept the public smile, but inside the echo was loud. I want to celebrate the work, but I cannot skip the wound, because the wound explains the fire that came after. He kept moving because stillness hurt more than motion. He kept working because craft gave the pain a place to live. Do you see Tony Manero differently now? I can almost feel the weight he carried under that cool walk. And yet, hope did return, and he reached for it with both hands. He would build a family that felt like a safe harbor at last. And for a while, the harbor held. For a while, the laughter drowned out the storm. He met Kelly Preston, and the spark felt steady, not just bright. Years turned friendship into love, and love into a promise. On a New Year's night in the Swiss Alps, he dropped to one knee. A ring caught the fireworks, and her yes caught his breath. They married with smiles that looked like a movie still. Soon, Jet arrived, and the house learned a new sound. He whispered, "You are my light," and meant every word. He shifted from red carpets to bedtime stories and bubble baths. 8 years later, Ella joined, and the home got even warmer. They showed perfect photos, but the real magic lived in small messes. Pancakes stacked too high, syrup on the table, laughter in the kitchen, bare feet in the grass, chase games, and movie nights under blankets. Jet loved planes and drew rockets and talked about flying one day. I picture those drawings on the fridge, and I smile and ache. He told friends his best role was being a husband and a father. When critics got loud, he walked back to that front door and exhaled. Fame felt lighter when family was close. Work mattered, but home saved him. What does real success look like to you? For him, it looked like Kelly's laugh and little feet thumping down a hall. For a while, it seemed fate had finally softened. For a while, joy felt taller than the pain. And then a morning in the islands broke that belief in half. Jet faced Kawasaki disease, and his parents built life around care and calm. They chose love over fear and privacy over pity. On a quiet morning in the Bahamas, a scream ripped the air. Jet had a seizure and fell, and the floor met him hard. His father ran, dropped to his knees, and pressed life back into him. He begged and breathed and timed each push with a prayer. Paramedics worked, but the minutes would not turn backward. At 16, Jet was gone, and the house lost its son. Kelly whispered she would trade her life for his and broke while holding him. Ella clung to her dad and tried to understand the hole in the room. As if grief was not cruel enough, strangers tried to profit from it. An extortion plot forced the family to relive the worst day in court. He thought about leaving the business and letting the cameras go dark. He vanished for a while and held to the 2 hands that were left. Then a small miracle arrived, and the house could breathe again. Benjamin was born, and love flickered back into the rooms. They smiled without guilt and held the new joy with care. The shadow did not leave, but the light grew anyway. If you were him, would you ever step back on a set again? I hate even saying it, but it shows how much courage can look like quiet. He kept moving for his kids and for the promise he made to love them well. And then fate circled back with a familiar and ruthless word. Cancer returned to his door and asked for everything. Kelly faced breast cancer and chose to fight in silence. She wanted childhood to stay bright for Ella and for Benjamin. He sat beside her night after night and squeezed her hand. He whispered promises like they were ropes pulling her closer to shore. In public, he said she fought with courage and with love. In private, he unraveled and watched the center of his world fade. On a July night, she was gone, and the house went still. Her perfume lingered in the hall, and her chair stayed empty at dinner. He wrote that grief is personal and walked his own path. He focused on Ella and Benjamin and learned to breathe again. Then another shock came, and his younger half-brother was gone too. Soon after, 2 old friends were taken by cancer as well. A partner from Greece and a dear friend from years of laughter both slipped away. He wrote goodbye notes that read like prayers for reunion down the road. Through the years, his faith and private choices drew loud scrutiny. Rumors rose and fell, and some claims were withdrawn or dismissed. The noise stung, but it could not define the man in the mirror. How do we honor the art and still give a person space to grieve? I ask myself that as I tell this, and I fight the urge to rush past the pain. He kept showing up, not because the hurt was gone, but because love asked him to keep going. And now, at 71, the story shifts from fame to the quiet work of living. It shifts to legacy, to family, and to the ways he turns loss into light. Today, his life is about what remains and what he protects. Ella Blue steps into her own voice and her own frame. He beams beside her like pride could hold the roof up. Benjamin brings spark and motion and gets his dad outside to play. They swim and hit tennis balls and, chase normal days. He calls them his lifeline, and you can see why. Work still happens, but family sets the clock now. His home in Florida holds a private runway that feels like freedom. He can step outside, start his jet, and climb above the clouds. He once kept bigger planes and even passed a famous one to a museum. He has sold houses he once loved and made one place his refuge. He turns brief into giving through the John Travolta Foundation. Quiet gifts help kids and hospitals and keep a bright name alive. Fans still go soft for films like Michael and Phenomenon because they feel like a hug. Those stories glow even more when you know the life behind them. He smiles on carpets, keeps creating, and even winks at Grease in playful ads. I carry all of this with a mix of joy and ache, and I think you do too. Thanks for watching and for spending this time at the messy human edge of a legend. Subscribe if you want more classic stories reframed with care and heart. Stay curious and watch the next episode because the past still speaks to right now. Which John Travolta moment will you carry when the lights go quiet?